Letter 46 of Evelina. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Elizabeth Klett. Evelina by Fanny Burney. Letter 46. Evelina to the Reverend Mr. Villars, Holborn, June 17th. Yesterday Mr. Smith carried his point of making a party for Vauxhall, consisting of Madame Duval, Monsieur Du Bois, all the Brantons, Mr. Brown, himself, and me; for I find all endeavours vain to escape anything which these people desire I should not. There were 20 disputes previous to our setting out. First, as to the time of our going. Mr. Branghton, his son, and young Brown were for 6 o'clock, and all the ladies and Mr. Smith were for 8. The latter, however, conquered. Then, as to the way we should go, some were for a boat, others for a coach, and Mr. Branghton himself was for walking; but the boat at length was decided upon. Indeed, this was the only part of the expedition that was agreeable to me, for the Thames was delightfully pleasant. The garden is very pretty, but too formal. I should have been better pleased had it consisted less of straight walks, where grove nods at grove, each alley has its brother. The trees, the numerous lights, and the company in the circle round the orchestra, make a most brilliant and gay appearance; and had I been with a party less disagreeable to me, I should have thought it a place formed for animation and pleasure. There was a concert, in the course of which an hautbois concerto was so charmingly played, that I could have thought myself upon enchanted ground, had I had spirits more gentle to associate with. The hautbois in the open air is heavenly. Mr. Smith endeavoured to attach himself to me with such officious assiduity and impertinent freedom that he quite sickened me. Indeed, Monsieur Du Bois was the only man of the party to whom, voluntarily, I ever addressed myself. He is civil and respectful, and I have found nobody else so since I left Howard Grove. His English is very bad, but I prefer it to speaking French myself, which I dare not venture to do. I converse with him frequently, both to disengage myself from others, and to oblige Madame Duval, who is always pleased when he is attended to. As we were walking about the orchestra, I heard a bell ring, and in a moment Mr. Smith, flying up to me, caught my hand, and, with a motion too quick to be resisted, ran away with me many yards before I had breath to ask his meaning, though I struggled as well as I could to get away from him. At last, however, I insisted upon stopping. "Stopping, Ma'am!" cried he; "why, we must run on, or we shall lose the cascade." And then again he hurried me away, mixing with a crowd of people, all running with so much velocity, that I could not imagine what had raised such an alarm. We were soon followed by the rest of the party, and my surprise and ignorance proved a source of diversion to them all, which was not exhausted the whole evening. Young Branghton, in particular, laughed till he could hardly stand. The scene of the cascade I thought extremely pretty, and the general effect striking and lively. But this was not the only surprise which was to divert them at my expense, for they led me about the garden purposely to enjoy my first sight of various other deceptions. About 10 o'clock, Mr. Smith having chosen a box in a very conspicuous place, we all went to supper. Much fault was found with everything that was ordered, though not a morsel of anything was left; and the dearness of the provisions, with conjectures upon which profit was made by them, supplied discourse during a whole meal. When wine and cider were brought, Mr. Smith said, "Now let's enjoy ourselves; now is the time or never. Well, Ma'am, and how do you like Vauxhall?" "Like it!" cried young Branghton; "why, how can she help liking it? She's never seen such a place before, that I'll answer for." "For my part," said Miss Branghton, "I like it because it is not vulgar." "This must have been a fine treat for you, Miss," said Mr. Branghton. "Why, I suppose you was never so happy in all your life before." I endeavoured to express my satisfaction with some pleasure, yet I believe they were much amazed at my coldness. "Miss ought to stay in town till the last night," said young Branghton, "and then it's my belief she'll say something to it. Why, Lord, it's the best night of any; there's always a riot, and there the folks run about, and then there's such a squealing and squalling; and there all the lamps are broke, and the women run skimper-scamper. I declare I would not take 5 guineas to miss the last night." I was very glad when they all grew tired of sitting, and called for the waiter to pay the bill. The Miss Branghtons said they would walk on while the gentlemen settled the account, and asked me to accompany them, which, however, I declined. "You girls may do as you please," said Madame Duval; "but as to me, I promise you, I shan't go nowhere without the gentlemen." "No more, I suppose, will my cousin," said Miss Branghton, looking reproachfully toward Mr. Smith. This reflection, which I feared would flatter his vanity, made me most unfortunately request Madame Duval's permission to attend them. She granted it, and away we went, having promised to meet in the room. To the room, therefore, I would immediately have gone, but the sisters agreed that they would first have a little pleasure, and they tittered and talked so loud that they attracted universal notice. "Lord, Polly," said the eldest, "suppose we were to take a turn in the dark walks?" "Ay, do," answered she, "and then we'll hide ourselves, and then Mr. Brown will think we are lost." I remonstrated very warmly against this plan, telling them it would endanger our missing the rest of the party all the evening. "Oh, dear," cried Miss Branghton, "I thought how uneasy Miss would be without a beau." This impertinence I did not think worth answering, and quite by compulsion I followed them down a long alley, in which there was hardly any light. By the time we came near the end, a large party of gentlemen, apparently very riotous, and who were hallooing, leaning on one another, and laughing immoderately, seemed to rush suddenly from behind some trees, and, meeting us face to face, put their arms at their sides, and formed a kind of circle, which first stopped our proceeding, and then our retreating, for we were presently entirely enclosed. The Miss Branghtons screamed aloud, and I was frightened exceedingly. Our screams were answered with bursts of laughter, and for some minutes we were kept prisoners, till at last one of them, rudely seizing hold of me, said I was a pretty little creature. Terrified to death, I struggled with such vehemence to disengage myself from him, that I succeeded, in spite of his efforts to detain me; and immediately, with a swiftness which fear only could have given me, I flew rather than ran up the walk, hoping to secure my safety by returning to the lights and company we had so foolishly left. But before I could possibly accomplish my purpose, I was met by another party of men, one of whom placed himself so directly in my way, calling out, "Whither so fast, my love?" that I could only have proceeded by running into his arms. In a moment, both my hands, by different persons, were caught hold of, and one of them, in a most familiar manner, desired, when I ran next, to accompany me in a race, while the rest of the party stood still and laughed. I was almost distracted with terror, and so breathless with running, that I could not speak, till another, advancing, said, I was as handsome as an angel, and desired to be of the party. I then just articulated, "For Heaven's sake, gentlemen, let me pass." Another, then rushing suddenly forward, exclaimed, "Heaven and earth! What voice is that?" "The voice of the prettiest little actress I have seen this age," answered one of my persecutors. "No, no, no," I panted out, "I am no actress; pray let me go, pray let me pass." "By all that's sacred," cried the same voice, which I then knew for Sir Clement Willoughby's, "'tis herself!" "Sir Clement Willoughby," cried I, "oh, Sir, assist me, or I shall die with terror." "Gentlemen," cried he, disengaging them all from me in an instant, "pray leave this lady to me." Loud laughs proceeded from every mouth, and two or three said Willoughby has all the luck; but one of them, in a passionate manner, vowed he would not give me up, for that he had the first right to me, and would support it. "You are mistaken," said Sir Clement, "this lady is I will explain myself to you another time, but I assure you, you are all mistaken." And then, taking my willing hand, he led me off, amidst the loud acclamations, laughter, and gross merriment of his impertinent companions. As soon as we had escaped from them, Sir Clement, with a voice of surprise, exclaimed, "My dearest creature, what wonder, what strange revolution has brought you to such a place as this?" Ashamed of my situation, and extremely mortified to be thus recognized by him, I was for some time silent, and when he repeated his question, only stammered out, I hardly know how, lost from my party." He caught my hand, and eagerly pressing it, in a passionate voice said, "Oh, that I had sooner met with thee!" Surprised at a freedom so unexpected, I angrily broke from him, saying, "Is this the protection you give me, Sir Clement?" And then I saw what the perturbation of my mind had